If you were at the last Leadership Academy, I introduced myself as Sarah's husband. And that's my job. And I just do this thing on the side called being a CEO of the North Texas Tollway Authority. And had you asked me that two years ago, I would have told you I'm the CEO of the North Texas Tollway Authority. So at 53 years old, I kind of had finally matured and understand what's.
You got it right.
In fact, when my boys were dating, I can remember one night being at home and they were telling their girlfriends to take one of Dad's roads. Because if you have a problem, then you just, here's how you can get help, and they'll be there quickly to help you. So, that made me proud in lots of different ways, right?
Yeah.
One of the interesting things that our board challenged us with several years ago was to humanize the brand, NTTA. You're not just this big monster up there that's, bludgeoning people with asking them to pay their bills and what have you. Humanize it.
Yeah.
That's how we came up with the puppet campaign, the NTTA ambassadors.
Yep.
That won, the President's Award for IBTTA a couple years ago. So I think that's another way to look at innovation, right? And you can see how the board is challenging staff to say, hey, humanize it. Yeah. And then how staff takes that direction, and then how we create something that I thought was genius from our communications and marketing folks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Toll Talk, Driving Change. I'm one of your hosts, Kaylee Jakovics, and with me I have...
I'm Alex Ficari.
And today we have a special guest joining from North Texas Tollway Authority, also known as NTTA, James Hofmann, who is the CEO and Executive Director. James, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me, and I look forward to talking with you guys. I always have a good time when we meet at conferences or, we talk on the phone. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to start to give our viewers just an idea of who you are, where you're located, what do you like to do for fun, anything with family you want to share?
Sure. If you were at the last Leadership Academy, I introduced myself as Sarah's husband. And that's my job. And I just do this thing on the side called being a CEO of the North Texas Tollway Authority. And had you asked me that two years ago, I would have told you I'm the CEO of the North Texas Tollway Authority. So at 53 years old, I kind of had finally matured and understand what's.
You got it right.
That's great.
I had to apologize to my wife that she went 30 years with me having things backwards. So, but yeah, I've been married to my high school sweetheart for over 30 years now.
Wow.
We got two wonderful boys, 26 and 24, or about to be 24. We've got a daughter-in-law. So May 4th, our oldest married his longtime girlfriend of about 6 or 7 years.
Congratulations.
And I had the honor of officiating. So,
wow. That's so nice.
And, I kind of teared up a few times along the way. I'm not going to lie there. But it was a great honor because, I think what that showed to me was that they see the marriage that my wife and I have, and that's something that they want.
Yeah.
And I might even tear up now.
I know, you're making me want to tear up.
For a dad, for mom, they bring their children into the world, right? And for a dad, I was able to send him out into the world, and I was able to send him out into the world with his best friend.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And so that was something that will stay with me forever. And it was a great honor. And it was a beautiful ceremony. And we're ecstatic to have Hannah as part of the family. And she's a great person. And so now we've got 3 kiddos. That's the way we look at it.
There you go.
So
there you go.
Family vacations are now +1.
Well, now the question, you got to start applying that appropriate amount of pressure to make it +4, right? So, do you wait a year? Do you know?
Yeah. So, I thought you were going to go in a different direction, like my youngest one.
No.
Like, no, we're not in a rush for that one.
Yeah, no, I have 3 boys myself, and so 28, 21, and the youngest just is 18 and going off to college and that whole thing. So, but we were looking like, all right, we're ready to be grandparents, we think. So
I just got married last fall, and I asked my grandpa to officiate the wedding. So it was really special. So I know it was emotional for him, it was emotional for me, so I know exactly where you're coming from. Thank you for sharing that. That is very sweet. I'm like holding back my tears. But let's transition a little bit. Tell us about your background and really how you got involved with the industry leading up to your position and career with NTTA.
Yeah. So I'm not an engineer. I actually have a bachelor's and a master's in geography.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So more on the quantitative side. So mathematics, computer science, geographic information systems, location theory side of things.
Wow.
But a lot of people, when they heard, when I was younger, when Trivial Pursuits was a big deal, they were like, oh, geography major. All right, he's going to be on our team to answer all those tough place questions. And I was miserable at it. So I was terrible at it. But yeah, so that's my background. I actually got into tolling. It's very interesting. I had a consulting gig with North Texas Tollway Authority is how I actually ended on GIS, ended up getting into the toll business.
Makes sense.
And, I was in academia for a while. I was in municipal government for a while. And I decided I wanted to get in the consulting world. So I submitted my resume, and unbeknownst to me, there were 2 people that were leading that hiring process. One of them said I had been in the municipal environment for too long, and I was lazy because The other one said, "Oh, seems to be on paper the guy that we're looking for," and kept hounding the other one.
All right.
Finally, he relented, got an interview, and I guess the rest is history. So. Wherever Les Zelensky is, he used to be on the GEC for the North Texas Tollway Authority. I guess I owe my career to Les. This had not fought for me. Who knows where I would have ended up, right?
That's awesome.
Anyways, I came on board, did a number of IT consulting roles for NTTA, ended up becoming their IT director for a couple of years, went back into the consulting side for about 7 years, I guess. And right about the time that my oldest son was getting ready to go into college or to high school, so this was in 2013, he came to me and said, "Dad, you've been on the road a lot. I'd like for you to stop traveling so much." And I'd been on the road for 3 or 4 years, almost continuously. So I made some changes there, and he came back in and he said, "Thanks for making those changes, but now you're going back to what you were doing before." And it was right about that time that I got a call from somebody, and somebody I used to work with at NTTA that said, "Hey, we're going through some organizational changes, some management changes. Sure. Would you consider coming back?" The first time I said no. But then I got another call from an outside third party that works with NTTA that said, "Hey, they'd really like for you to consider it. There's some people there." And so I did. Here you go. So I came back, was over IT, customer service, collections, HR. And then in 2019, was honored with the opportunity to step into this role. And it's hard to believe, but I've been in this role now for 5 or 6 years.
Wow. I have to say something here, and I don't mean to sound cheesy, but the truth is, hearing your background and speaking with you, in a little, I don't want to say personal setting, but just getting level. At a deeper level. I think you. And I mean this candidly, you're a man that has a reputation for being personal and more also an innovator. And hearing your background, data, technology, customer service, your relationship with your family, I have to say it's no wonder why. I mean, you really do. It's great to see that and understand the origins of it. So that's I think those are some great things, qualities in you that I think people, will benefit knowing, right? Just the kind of person you are, and the stellar reputation you guys have as your whole team at NTTA, but definitely from your leadership perspective as well. So
I appreciate that, and we've got 800 employees here at NTTA that get up every day.
Yeah.
How can I help our customers? Get from point A to point B, or resolve an issue they may have, paying their bill or what have you, or to get a toll tag. And we take a lot of pride in how we serve our customers and the product and the services we put out there. And that's not something that from management we have to beat down through the ranks. I mean, ideas coming up the opposite way from folks on the front line all the time about how we can do something better to the benefit of our customers.
And I think that serves as a great, and thank you for saying that. And I think it serves as a great transition to kind of really talk about NTTA as a whole. People understand, especially Texas residents, and then I think industry professionals know the brand. But I'd say overall, what all the work that you've been doing, and your role in that organization, is NTTA at the finish line of success, or do you have, what's the future look like, and your role with that? How's that looking?
No, that's a good question. And Kayla, you asked at the beginning to talk a little bit about NTTA, so I'll start off.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
For those that that are viewers that are maybe watching globally or aren't familiar, give us an overview. I would love that.
So NTTA sits in North Texas, so we serve 4 counties that are primarily centered around Dallas and Fort Worth. So the 2 big areas here in North Texas. We are the toll provider within the region. Now, what that means is we provide the traditional toll roads. Excuse me. We also have managed lanes. We do not own or operate the managed lanes. Centra has a long-term concession with TxDOT on a couple of roads, managed lanes here, and then TxDOT has some of their own managed lanes. But what we do though, is we process transactions for everybody in the DFW area. So how that benefits our customer is that it is one location that you're going to get a bill from. It's one place that you need to call. You don't have to think about, hey, wait a minute, I was on an NTTA toll road, then I got off, I went on this managed lane, now whose was that? And then I got onto another one. You're not going to get 3 invoices, you're going to get 1.
Sure.
So, whether you're driving on our 1,200 lane miles of toll roads or a pretty large network of managed lanes, you only have to deal with one agency. And I've got to give credit to our predecessors that put that into statute and law. I mean, we have primacy in 2 ways. One of them is we get the right of first refusal for any toll project. So that's fantastic, whether it's a managed lane or not. We get to say whether we want to take it or whether we'll pass on it. And then the second piece is that we are the invoicing customer service agent for North Texas. And and it's worked well. As long as we're doing our job well, it works well. And so far it's worked well. We've had good people. We have good people. We got good consultants. We've got good vendors. Our board stays on us all the time to make sure that we are looking forward to the future as well, right? This is not an organization where just good enough flies. I mean, we are constantly looking at what can we do better? What can we become more efficient at? Are there products or services or value that we can add to our customers for having a toll tag account? You look at the way that we maintain our roadways. Every other year when we do surveys out there, our customers rate the cleanliness of our roadways and the upkeep of our roadways.
That's great.
At a level, at a 90% or above level. So, we're constantly making sure that we're taking care of our assets and our customers. And that is not by treading water. That's not by saying, hey, we're doing this pretty well. Let's not worry about getting better in that area. And it is across the board.
Do you? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say every department has that kind of mentality here. I'm not saying that we're perfect by any stretch of the means, We've got work to do. I've got work to do, but we're in it for the right reason.
Good.
And people that came before us were innovators. And those of us that are here, especially in the management position, when we leave here, we want to make sure that it's in better condition than when we inherited it. And the only way we're going to do that is to take things and continue to move them forward.
Do you think that success does it lean more towards the vision and mission that you set, or do you think it's more from the culture, like that's helping you be successful?
I think it's both, to be honest with you. I think your culture and your mission have to complement one another, right? Otherwise people will look at it and just say, wait a minute, we're not talking the talk and walking the walk, if you will. Right. So I think it's part of it is, to be honest with you, I think it's just the legacy that NTTA has had over 20 some odd years.
Sure. Okay.
Of being at the forefront. And as people are around NTTA over a period of time, and then they get to see, whether it's through IBTTA or other channels, what other agencies are doing and what we've done and what we're looking for doing, I think they start understanding that we've got a good place here, and it puts it into perspective a little bit, which makes them then want to drive even harder. And the other part, though, here is, our board expects us to be trying to figure out how can we do something better, or what's the next thing to provide to our customers, because we don't get taxpayer dollars. We are completely funded through the tolls that we collect. And with that, we need to make sure that we are consistently raising the bar, because think about it on the invoicing side, which from my background, I'm more familiar with, right? On the invoicing side, they're not comparing us to another toll agency. They're comparing us to their utility bill, their credit card bill.
Yeah, absolutely.
How Amazon is charging them, or Apple Pay, or whatever it is. That's what we're being compared to.
Right.
And so that level of service is what we're being compared to. And we need to make sure that we are, that we're up at that level, right? So we tend to look at competitors as a very, very large or broad umbrella. And it's not just government agencies. It's not other toll authorities. It's what's the best of the best in certain areas. And then how can we obtain that level of results?
Love that.
Yeah, you're continuing to improve tolling systems and customer experience and kind of stay ahead of the game. And I think that makes you guys a unique, agency out there. And I guess, what is your approach in integrating new technologies or innovations?
We want to be on the leading edge, but not the bleeding edge, right? And even some of our past board chairs have quoted that. So where we are willing to take calculated risks and invest in something that may be a little bit unproven, or be something that we're not quite sure when the big return on investment will hit. And we've got a track record of several of those. But we also understand there are certain things that NTTA, as much as we think about ourselves, we're really kind of a mosquito on the windshield in certain areas of innovation, right? We're not driving it. We're the recipients of it. And so we also kind of know our place in the ecosystem. But one thing that I like that we have a mindset down through our ranks here, which is, if you have a good idea, if you want to prove something out, we're open to have that discussion with you, being that pilot.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Now, it has to have value in it for us.
Of course.
Right? But if we think that there's value there, we're willing to work with vendors and pilot things within reason. Whether that's, different things in the lane, whether that's applications, whether that's different payment mechanisms. Safety is a little bit different because, things have to be proven out more on the safety side of things than they do on the IT side of things. But, we're open for ideas. And you see that you see it in across the board. We've got a lot of our safety side of things out on the roadway, we're early adopters on, the lane blade system to be able to push things off as opposed to having our folks have to get out of their cars.
Yeah.
And the striping, we were one of the first agencies that used the orange striping in construction areas. And it's very visible. You can see it. If you drive over it, it's got rumbles in it. And we get a lot of compliments from that kind of stuff, from those types of things from our customers as well. So when it makes sense, we will take a step forward and try something new.
Speaking, I loved your analogy there. Speaking of being a mosquito on a windshield and your ecosystems, I'm kind of curious, and even technology and fostering technology. What initiatives has NTTA looked at as far as how does it affect environmental? What's its environmental impact on the communities that you serve?
Yeah, we do quite a bit. So obviously, the biggest thing that we can do as a toll agency is maintain our assets.
Right.
If we can prolong, a roadway and not have to rip it out 10 years or 20 years premature, if you will, right?
Sure.
I mean, that has enormous amounts of environmental benefits to that. So to us, the first thing that we can really do from an environmental standpoint is take just excellent care of our assets. And we do that. We invest quite a bit of money in preserving our assets. The second thing that we do, one of the bigger things that the industry is doing is removing gantries.
Yes, a lot of talk about that. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we were one of the first ones that did that in 2010. We converted our entire system to all electronic, meaning no cash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That had a huge revenue increase for us, sure, because now we don't have people in queues. If you look at the traffic that we have in the DFW area now, we could never have survived as an agency with having cash lanes right now. The traffic would have been outrageous, right? But, we've got moving the cash booths. We have how we maintain our assets. We also make sure that when we use chemicals out on our roadway for snow and ice treatment, because we're starting to get more of the ice treatments here, that we clean those chemicals up so that they don't get into storm drains and what have you, and we recycle them.
That's great.
That's amazing.
Right? As part of our environmental process, we also look at like carbon offset. So we've got several tree farms that are on land that we own, and but other agencies probably have to do some of that too. So it's interesting, right? We want cars to show up.
Yeah. Time, but yeah.
At the same time, that can cause, environmental issues as well. So,
but I think it's funny you said that about, other agencies as well. But I think that's what there's a lot of people that watch this channel that are not just agencies or vendors or integrators. They're also engineers. They're people looking for career changes, people who are in industrial construction, things along those lines. And the one thing, and I brought that up because I was amazed when I came into this industry. I remember my first trip was in Anaheim to IBTTA. And while I was out there, I remember we visited a landfill that was converted and to help, the construction and everything like that. And to hear the level of effort that went into, the methane that was coming out of the land, and then also bird migration patterns. I don't think everybody realizes, even some of the people sometimes in tolling, realize all the different facets and considerations and variables that go into not only providing safe construction and road, but to also take care of our, planet Earth, right? Like, what are we going to do to take care of that? So to hear you having those initiatives, I think it helps me because I'm like, okay, I didn't hear it one time. I'm hearing it again. For one of, the largest agencies, in the country, that's important to them, and they're taking those efforts. That's fantastic. I think it's great. Yeah.
Oh, it's I was just talking to with Elizabeth Mao, lack of better terms, our chief engineer. Yeah. Although she's over more than just the engineering side. And again, we want to leave this place in a better condition for our kids than we inherited it, right? So it's our responsibility to do what we can do.
Sure,
to
absolutely.
ensure that the planet is healthy.
You're doing a great thing to help protect the environment. I also know that you have a big a big passion for a positive user experience. I mean, how are you ensuring that over at NTTA?
Well, we have lots of different ways that we touch base with our customers. So let's start on the roadway. One of the things that we offer free roadside safety services. So if you need a gallon of gas and you're over on the road, we'll give you that for free. I mean, what we want to do is we want to get you moving off the road as quickly as possible so we don't have to worry about any accidents. And, we're proud to say that by the time that we notice you, receive a call, what have you, within about 17 minutes, you are on your way.
Wow.
Compare that to what some others like AAA or what have you, it may take them a couple hours.
Right, and it's free. Wow, that's great.
And that's a free service that we offer on our roadways. And we get kudos for that all the time. In fact, when my boys were dating, I can remember one night being at home and they were telling their girlfriends to take one of Dad's roads because if you have a problem, then you just, here's how you can get help, and they'll be there quickly to help you. So, that made me proud in lots of different ways, right?
Yeah.
So that's one way, is providing some of that service out there. The other way that we do it is every other year we put out a customer survey, and we ask them, what are we doing well? What do we need to be doing differently, or what have you? And then also to the innovation side, what is it that they would like to see from us?
Sure.
But we consistently get exceptionally high marks on the cleanliness and the rideability of our roads.
How many people are using your roads on a daily basis?
Yeah.
So when we look at, we have a couple million transactions a day. So right now, on our roads. But when you look at our roads plus the roads that are the managed lanes, and we look at unique users, which means you can ride it one time or 1,000 times, we're going to count you as one unique user. There's 14 million unique users of tolled facilities in the DFW area.
Wow.
So
a day?
A day. Oh, no, a year.
Oh, okay, a year. Okay, I was like, wow.
Users.
That would be really impressive.
I'm never moving there. Traffic's going to be too bad. No.
But a couple million a day is
that's still
kind of
that's impressive.
Yeah. Be able to manage
but
that.
The other part that we do on the customer service side, we have an independent third party that provides an opportunity for everybody who interacts with one of our agents, whether that's at a walk-up or whether it's on the phone, to basically grade us.
Yeah.
And we break those responses into three areas. One of them are toll tags. One of them are our pay by mail, our zip cash customers. And then the other ones are what we call our habitual violators. Those that have accrued racked up over 100 unpaid tolls over a 12-month period. Yeah. So they fall into the more difficult customer.
That's great.
And I'm happy to say all of them grade us 93% or higher on customer satisfaction. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. I think it's great to hear that the customer is coming first, and that's something we're hearing across. We go to, for example, the IBTTA a lot, and being there and all the different agencies, everybody we talk to, that's really a big topic. And you wouldn't have heard it years ago, but nowadays in these past 10 years or more so, definitely in the past 5 or 6 years, you keep hearing it come up and more that it's a priority. Do you get a lot of, like, from your experience at IBTTA, do you get a lot of feedback in the same regard, that similar visions that line up with NTTAs of putting the customer first?
Yeah, over the years, you're starting to see more and more of that, and because people are having to pay for to use our roadways, right? So especially when the economy is having difficulties, you need to make sure that you're taking care of the people that are basically keeping the lights on for you. They're paying your bills. Yeah. And I do think that over the years, like over a decade or so, I have seen a switch in how we treat the customers. And in part, a lot of that has been driven as we started removing the toll booths out of the way. Yeah. When the toll booths were there, you had a lot of one-on-one connections and you had a lot of personal connections that were made and what have you. But now when you remove that person-to-person kind of familiarity, and you're just calling a phone number to get something resolved and you don't know who you're going to get. To me, that raises the bar and the expectation from our side that we need to take care of you.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that that is a positive experience when you call us for whatever the reason is, or when you need help out there on the roadway. One of the interesting things that our board challenged us with several years ago was to humanize the brand NTTA. You know, you're not just this big monster up there that's, bludgeoning people with asking them to pay their bills and what have you. Humanize it.
Yeah.
That's how we came up with the puppet campaign, the NTTA ambassadors.
Yep.
That won, the President's Award for IBTTA a couple of years ago. So I think that's another way to look at innovation, right? And you can see how the board is challenging staff to say, hey, humanize it. Yeah. And then how staff takes that direction, and then how we create something that I thought was genius from our communications and marketing folks.
Yeah, I can definitely see, and I just reaffirm, not that you need my affirmation so much to speak, but just to share that, of when you talk about innovation and engaging customers, right, and letting them know you are there for them, and you're opening the door to customer service and all the things that go along with that. That campaign, as well as, your agency has a stellar reputation for that, because it is putting that customer first, and it's a creative way to do it, right? Whether they like the type of tag that they want, or, the engagement with the incentives, like all of that's just, it is a great way to do it. And customers respond well to that. And to your earlier point, usually we don't want to look just at ourselves for growth. We want to look at what the industry standards are in multiple industries. Like you look at the Deltas, the Chick-fil-A's of the world, and who's setting that expectation of customer service high, regardless of the industry, and what can we learn from it. So that's phenomenal. Yeah.
And to tie in what you said, so we have those customer surveys that we put out there every other year, and one of the feedback that we got several years ago, or a couple of surveys ago, was we'd love to have some kind of frequent flyer type miles. If you get on the airlines, or you get on credit cards, or what have you. And so we put a toll perks program together, and I think we're getting close to 1 million subscribers now to our toll perks program, to where the more they drive on the road, the more points that they earn, and then they can trade those points in for a number of different things.
That's great.
Well, James, you're doing great things as the CEO of NTTA, and we appreciate you sharing all of that with us. I do want to transition over to IBTTA, which, for our viewers that may not be familiar with that, it is the International Bridge, Tunnel, and Turnpike Association. I want to get your vision for the association, and I know you might have some news to share as well. Also, how long have you been involved with the association as well?
So I've been involved with IBTTA for almost a little over 20 years.
Okay.
All right.
Wow. So quite a while.
Lots of experience.
Started off kind of going to a few conferences and just trying to figure out what this thing is all about. And then started presenting. And then from that, started kind of maybe being a facilitator and working my way up, if you will. When IBTTA was looking at national interoperability, I was brought in a few years in as some people retired. I was brought in to kind of help lead part of that. And we're still in the implementation side of some national interoperability plans there, but we're heading in the right direction there. And hopefully, knock on wood, within sooner rather than later, we'll actually have it in place. And then I was tapped to lead a new committee, the Emerging Technologies Committee, in 2019. So I got that up and running, and turned that over last year. And then I've been on the board for several years as well. I'm on the executive team right now, and then next year I will be the 2025 president. So looking forward to that.
Congratulations.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
That may be one of those be careful what you wish for things, but
no, you're going to do
I'm
great.
looking forward to it. So kind of the vision side of it. So I think most people that watch this that are familiar with IBTTA know that our longtime CEO of IBTTA, Pat Jones, has decided to retire after about 23 years.
Yeah.
And so he will be retiring at the end of the year.
Going to be missing him.
Also, this is the year that our current strategic plan ends. And so next year, I think we have a really great opportunity as a membership base for IBTTA to look at and what I would kind of consider reimagine IBTTA. And that doesn't mean that there's something broken with IBTTA. It's just an opportunity, I think, to look at the strategic plan, maybe in a little bit of a different light, and then also bring in the expertise and the vision of whoever our new CEO is going to be, and to see where he or she wants to take the organization.
Absolutely.
There's an opportunity for us. I think we've done certain things the same way for a period of time, and it's always good to try to just take a look at those.
Yeah.
And are they working for us? Can we tweak them or what have you? Because at the end of the day, all agencies kind of have a life cycle curve to them, right? And when they get to the top, they're either going to start declining or they're going to have to try to figure out things to make sure that they stay relevant and they continue that upward trajectory. And that's what I want us to take a good look at next year is where do we think, especially at the board level, where are we along that life cycle? And then is there something or things that we need to do differently or in addition to what we're doing to make sure we're continuing that positive movement, upward. And I'm excited for it. Probably a little bit more work than I thought initially now that Pat's retiring, but the one thing that my wife keeps reminding me throughout my career is God puts you where you need to be when you need to be there.
Yep.
And the reason why I tried to become the IBTT, get on the executive team, I got it on my third attempt.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So that means had I had it, was I successful the first time,
right,
I would have already been 2 years removed from it, right? Or 3 years removed from it. But there's a reason why I've got it going into next year, and when Pat's retired and what have you. So you got to kind of walk into it and just say, okay, there's a reason why I'm here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And figure that out and take a step forward and let's do what we need to do. So
that's great. Yeah. Now that she sounds like a great woman and a good partner to you, and that's fantastic. And that does bring me to that, to reflect a moment on being at the right time in the right place, and when you're supposed to be there. And God said, now is the time. So now with you being this time, obviously you've talked a little bit about your direction and what you're going to be focusing on. I'd say for probably forever, but at least for the first couple of years as you get but what else do you see? What other trends do you see coming in the future that you may hope to address or take a look at and see if there's opportunities?
So from an industry and perspective, not necessarily whether ITTA jumps into it,
right?
Not. I think it's kind of cool right now being in the toll industry, right? Because you in transportation in general, we've got a lot of things that we think might hit and become mainstream at some point in the future. Mm-hmm. We don't know when, we don't know if we could get a monkey wrench thrown into this, right? But we're having to look at these now and possibly make decisions about impacts that it might have 10 years from now or 15, 20 years from now. So examples, the way we design roads now, when we start the environmental side to the time open to traffic could be 10 years. Well, the mixture of vehicles in 10 years, if we end up going all electric vehicles versus now, that's a completely different type of vehicle that's out on our roadway. And what's that mean to a design standpoint, a construction standpoint? When you then look at it from a revenue standpoint, we have bonds that we take out for 30 years, right? So we have bonds outstanding till 2048, 2049. Well, we hear things like we have air taxis that might be coming in, and we have drone deliveries and all of that. And looking at that and saying, all right, well, what impact might that make on the transaction and the revenue volumes to our roads. And should we look at, is there value to our airspace?
Yeah.
Can we protect that value of our airspace if they're taking basically box truck deliveries off of our roads, but they're using our airspace above us to make those deliveries? If autonomous vehicles ever hit at the way that some people project, right? Could be within that time frame where we still owe money. Because if we owe the bond market $1 million, one car shows up, I got to charge that car $1 million. If 1 million show up, I can charge them $1 each, right? So when people can answer their emails and work while they're going to and from work, and they're not having to worry about driving and paying attention to driving, how does that change their value of time?
Very good.
And then they might be willing to take an hour to get to their office and not pay for it, tolls for it, versus maybe spending 40 minutes but having to pay tolls for it.
Right.
And how does that trade-off then impact the ridership on our roads?
Fantastic.
And trying to figure that out. And then the last part for us in the DFW area is if you look at what the population projections are over the next dozen or 24 years, it's enormous in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. How are we going to handle that amount of traffic and congestion and population boom? When in some cases, we can't build out anymore. We're constrained to 3 lanes in each direction because we literally cannot build out
physically.
Physically. So we're looking at a kind of a corridor study right now of different ideas, and it's global. So we brought in a consulting firm that has international experience to try to help us figure out strategies by different sections of our roadways on how we can get not necessarily more throughput, but possibly more throughput, but make the user's experience better at the end of the day.
Well, I think that really kind of gives me this one thought that this is going to be a major task in the tolling industry. And I would assume that you're going to need collaborators, right? You're going to need to bring people in. And so when you think about, what would you say to the members of IBTTA? What do they need to be thinking about, and who do they need to be recruiting and promoting this to maybe help solve these problems?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just having this conversation yesterday with somebody at an IBTTA maintenance workshop. The tent's going to have to be different. It's going to have to be bigger, I should say. Maybe not different. It's going to have to be bigger. We all know that there's going to be more and more IT companies that are coming into play. At some point, we probably need to start trying to figure out how do we get the auto manufacturers in this as well, right? Do we look at trying to bring in others, whether they're air taxis or drones or what have you? Do we look at, trying to bring them in? I mean, obviously with the drones, there's a side of it that can help us on maintenance and investigations and accidents and all of that kind of stuff. But we're just going to have a different mixture than we've traditionally seen, I think, in the past. And there's going to have to be new players. Now, the question, though, is where are those players today? And then from an IBTTA perspective, what's our value proposition to those players? Because they may be perfectly happy in the associations that they're at or wherever they're spending their dollars. So what are we going to offer them to come and spend those dollars with us and our members? That's something that I think is going to be fleshed out a little bit in our next strategic plan for IBTTA is exactly how do we bring new industries in, new companies in, or what have you. But as you know, from personal experience, and you're an outgoing guy, it can be pretty daunting coming into IBTTA as a new. So how do we make that transition easier? Right? So that you just don't come in for a year or two and then decide, oh man, I haven't been able to navigate this thing yet. Now I'm going to drop out.
And I do want to comment on that in two perspectives. I want to digress a little bit. When you talk about bringing these people in there, right, and to give our viewers a tangible example, I love that you say that, you bring a gallon of gas. How can you get a drone to deliver the weight of a gallon of gas with the fluid distribution going all over the place? And all of that's going to take tech, not that saying that's the example that we're going to input, but when you talk about, automation and safety and there's, so many different opportunities out there. We do need technology players. We do need other people in there. So I think that is a big monumental task. But I think that to bring those people in, I think most people, being humans that we are, we don't always understand our role and the value that we need. And we need some sort of affirmation that we belong, right? And so I think that as when I joined IBTTA, my success was a result of Rachel Bell, right? Coming in and making herself approachable and talking. But I think also extending beyond just the personal route, understanding a clear way in which a business can succeed. Having, I don't want to say just as simply as a mentorship, but that's the foundational seed that needs to be planted to say, okay, here's how we're going to do this. But I think you bring up a great point is, how do you make it so that people come around and have the longevity of 20 years, 23 years, or however long they've been in. And it is vital because I've seen some great technologies and not just tech, businesses, I should say. I want to rephrase that specifically to businesses that have come into IBTTA. And not that I've agreed at every single one, but I do try to make that initiative to be equally greeting and welcome. But sometimes I don't see them again, right? Yep. They come in and some don't stick around. And that's a shame because I've heard some really good ideas and maybe they don't know how, maybe they don't have the personal skills because whether I'm outgoing or not, it can still be intimidating, right, to go up there and say what you want to say. So yeah, that definitely, I love the fact that you said that, James, because that's important. And I think that will help IBTT in the long run, help the industry in the long run as well. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And that goes the same with, different staff like we bring from the agency. So, as we start looking at sending different people or people that haven't been to IBTTA conferences or workshops or what have you in the past is how do we make sure that we help them network? Because that ultimately is where the value is at the end of the day, right? If that they can keep these connections and these relationships for years into the future so that they know when something comes up that they've got this, digital Rolodex, if you will, being able to go out and call somebody on the East Coast or the West Coast or what have you. That's important. I can't just show up and take care of myself, if you will. If we've got folks that are there that are newcomers to IBTTA, I want to make sure that they're meeting people and that I can help them kind of, traverse the landscape because it can be intimidating at times, especially if you're not an extrovert.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Relationships are so, it's not stated often enough and frequently enough in what we do in business. We tend to get fixated on a dollar or a goal or a technology or a widget. But realistically, we don't engage in any shape or form with people we don't trust. And so I think that the pursuit should be how do you expedite in a constructive way and not a malicious way, the relationship building process. And I think that's what has to happen. Yeah. So my 2 cents.
No, I agree. And we have just a couple minutes left. I think we could continue talking for a very long time. But James, I wanted to get, what are you most looking forward to both in the next year with NTTA and IBTTA? It's a lot of T's in there, but
from a home agency perspective, we have some new leadership blood. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they come in, and I've got high expectations for them. I think that they're going to bring a lot of positive change. I think they're going to bring different ideas. I think they're going to challenge us a little bit in ways that maybe we haven't been challenged before, or we haven't challenged ourselves before. So I'm interested to see how some of this newer leadership that we're bringing in, what kind of positive change they're going to have for us. From my perspective, we have a couple of things that are pretty tough right now. One of them is staffing. I know a number of agencies across the U.S. Are having staffing issues as well. And to me, that's almost become a personal challenge now, right? Is how can we buck the trend that private and public agencies are having, especially with your frontline workers? And it's a daunting issue at times. From an IBTTA perspective, at the end of the day, for me, it's the organization is a fantastic organization. I want to see us next year really kind of dive in and challenge some things, right? Should we continue to do it this way? Should we not? We can't be everything to everybody all the time.
True. So true.
But I also don't know at times, I think we've got, legal and communications and HR and even the engineering side to some degree that don't feel like they have a home at IBTTA. And is to really kind of look at not only the strategic planning side of things, but how do we bring those groups in, or do we?
Yeah.
Right. Because I can make arguments for both sides of them.
Sure.
But I think that there are opportunities to have HR and IT for example, at a conference together. Yeah. Right. And HR and maintenance at a conference, and legal and IT at a conference. And I don't know how many times my communications people are looking at our IT people saying, "Why didn't you tell me you were going to do this?" and what have you? Because now you're making my life more difficult. And the IT people are like, "Look, let me just do my job." Yeah. Right. So getting them together and having, I think, some really interesting conversations that can benefit the larger group to some regard. So I always like to look at, is there an opportunity to do things a little differently for the right reason? And I think next year we're going to have that opportunity. It's going to be a year-long process. We're going to engage membership. We're going to engage the different committees. We're going to engage the board, but really kind of taking a critical look at it and saying, hey, are we satisfied, or do we want to do something different, whatever different may be?
Fantastic.
And I'm jazzed. I'm ready for it. So
that's great.
I know we're really excited to see the impact that you're going to have on both organizations over the next year. So we want to thank you for joining us today.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to share with anybody before we wrap up for today?
Give me that. Final thoughts?
Yeah. Any final thoughts? Words of advice?
I just go back. I go back to a couple of things. One is, you're never alone. There's always somebody out there that can help you. There's always somebody out there, if you're willing to ask for help, whatever that may be, there's somebody out there that can help you. And I see that a lot within IBTTA. I've seen it at a professional level. I've seen it at a personal level when I've had struggles with people that just out of the blue call me and just say, "Hey man, for whatever reason you were on my mind. You're doing okay." I mean, it's amazing. Take advantage of those opportunities and step out and if you need help in any stretch of the imagination, ask. People care about you. And then I think the second one, I go back to where we need to be when we need to be there, right? And so it can get daunting at times, but you've been created uniquely for this situation that you're having to deal with. So lean into that.
Yes, sir.
And try to avoid the negative side of it. And I will tell you, I struggle with that, and I need people around me to remind me of that. But it changes how you look at problems.
Right.
180 degrees.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you so much, James, for spending this time with us. There's a bright future for all the organizations you get to work with, and we're looking to see the future and where it goes from there. So, thank you very much for joining and taking the time. And we hope all you viewers who have been sitting and listening in picked up some great information. If you have any questions or you want to hear more about a particular topic, please leave a comment or anything for James there. Drop it in the description and comment lines, and we'll share everything we can with you. So thank you very much for joining, and make sure you watch again.
hopefully we'll see you in Cleveland.
Yeah. Oh, you'll see us in Cleveland.
We'll see you then.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.